Stop flowing. If you want to actually master your practice, you need to stop chasing complex choreography and start thinking like a bodybuilder. I know that sounds contradictory to everything we know about the kind of spiritual flow of yoga, but modern day yoga, I think, is drowning in complexity. We are seeing endless transitions and creative sequencing, and yet students, in my experience at least, are getting weaker and their technique is staying stagnant. And why is this? It's because they're prioritizing variety over mastery. The idea behind what I'm going to share with you is so you can go back to basics like a bodybuilder does. They strip down what they do to the basic exercises and they just get better at them, which is what you're going to do. And then once you really feel comfortable with your craft and comfortable at what you're doing, you can now take that mastery into your flows. I'm just going to break down these 6 fundamental movements in yoga that I feel you need in order to really gain a hold of your practice rather than the practice or the movements getting away from you. We are really going to drill home the basics using the principle of use-specific plasticity, where we hammer home the basic continuously until those movements become automatic. If you're a teacher or a serious student, you know that feeling of hitting a plateau. You show up, you do your class, you sweat, but you aren't actually unlocking your handstand or that effortless flow. And that is because you're practicing yoga, but you aren't training your nervous system. To build a superior foundation, we need to simplify what we're doing. The human body, specifically in the context of asanas or poses, moves in 6 primary ways: flexion, extension, lateral flexion, twists, arm balances, and inversions. And that is it. Everything else is just a combination of these. So we're going to look at the science of how your brain maps movements, specifically the primary motor cortex, and why doing the same boring thing over and over again is actually the secret to that effortless grace you see in advanced practitioners. Trust me, it is not magic, it's simple biology. So let's get technical for a moment, because understanding the why will completely change how you approach your yoga practice. As I mentioned, there is a concept in neuroscience called Use-Dependent Neuroplasticity. Essentially, your brain is a map maker, and every time you move, it draws a path. Research has shown that repetitive practice of simple movements drives this plasticity. They found that practicing this basic sequence that I'm going to share for just 10 to 15 minutes a day over a few weeks led to massive gains in speed and accuracy. But here is the takeaway. The practice caused a measurable expansion and reorganization of the primary motor cortex specific to that trained pattern. When you are in a vinyasa flow, constantly changing positions, your brain never gets the chance to deepen that specific map. It's just skimming the surface. I hate that pose. But when you drill home the basic movements that I'm going to share with you over and over again, up to 50 times, you refine the brain's neural circuits. And it's that refinement which makes the movement so efficient long term. So many practitioners use too much muscular tension to create poses. They recruit muscles that aren't needed because the brain isn't sure what is required. But through high volume repetition of the core movements, your brain learns to switch off the unnecessary antagonists and fire only what is needed. And this is what we call sensory motor integration. And the result, well, you stop fighting your own body, you stop fighting your own nervous system, and the movement becomes automatic. And if we go back to what yoga really is, it's changing that which is unconscious to conscious. So in the context of yoga poses, we're trying to turn poses into something that starts to feel really automatic in our brains. And that way you can divert your attention to the most important thing, which is your breathing and that introspection, which is what makes yoga poses yoga. So how do we apply the science? Well, we approach a bodybuilder's mindset. See, a bodybuilder doesn't just go into a gym and do kind of a dance or a fancy sequence or a choreographed sequence. A bodybuilder is very specific about what he wants to do. It's the same when I train my clients to build muscle. We do the core movements, only 3 or 4 exercises, and we repeat them over and over again until we are so efficient at what we're doing. We want to be better at what we're doing, efficient and stronger. And in yoga, we tend to demonize this linear approach, but it's exactly what is missing. And to master the 6 fundamentals of physical yoga, you need to separate your practice from your training. You need to treat your handstand exactly the same way as someone would do a squat. They hammer home the technique into their brain and they repeat it again and again and again until it's an unconscious movement pattern. So let's get to the 6 fundamental movements in yoga that I want you to repeat over and over again until you're so confident at what you're doing. You want to feel like you've mastered the process. The same way when a bodybuilder decides he's going to get huge, he hammers home squats, deadlifts, overhead presses, bench. He does the basics, or she does the basics over and over again. I hope now that you're seeing the strategy. The first movement is spinal flexion, but not in the way it's typically practiced. I really want you to think about hacking your nervous system when you're doing this movement. So the first thing I want you to do is bend your knees and really stick your backside out behind you. What that will do is it will tip your pelvis anteriorly or forward, bringing the hamstrings with it. Bring your belly to your thighs, just there, and hands to the ground. And I'm not in a forward fold yet at all. I'm creating a shelf for my lower back. My lower back is going to rest on my thighs, and I'm just going to stay here and breathe. And then with each breath, I want to feel different. For our teacher trainees, you've heard me say this over and over again. If the sensation that you're feeling when you're practicing in a pose is the same throughout the 2 or 3 minutes that you're in the pose, you can successfully argue that feeling, that sensation is resistance, and it's not your body stretching as you would like. We have to find a way to hack the brain and nervous system. So the first thing you do is relax your lower back. Relax your lower back. Don't try and stretch. I can straighten my legs more, but I'm going to compromise too much. First thing you do is relax your lower back by breathing slowly. So the brain senses an absence of stress. Hands to the ground or on blocks. And then the more you relax, the more comfortable you will get with straightening your legs without losing that sensation in your lower back. Am I saying you're going to feel this right away? Absolutely not. It depends, of course, on your brain's history of that particular movement. The more repetitions you've done of that, the harder it might be, because I'm asking you to kind of change your movement pattern. So trust the process and trust the science. I always say that. Trust the process, trust the science. Bend your knees, stick your backside out, rest your belly on your thighs. Don't try to stretch straight away. Hack your nervous system, breathe in and out of your nose. And that is how you master your forward fold. And what you can then do is take that movement into your other forward bends. For example, Janu Shirshasana, where most people, their pelvis tips back. They do this and they do that. Most people, including teacher trainees. And it's no one's fault. It's just we're being taught how to do these poses from exceptionally bendy people. The reality is that the average Joe that comes to a yoga class is not a bendy average person. So we need to adapt that. You want your pelvis to tip forward. So exactly the same as we did when we were standing. We bend our knees, stick your backside out. There. That feels now like I'm moving from here. First thing I want to do, relax my lower back. Let's take that to Paschimottanasana, the seated version. I asked you to bend your knees and stick your backside out. So bend your knees, stick your backside out. Rest your belly on your thighs, hack your nervous system, relax before you start stretching. Never think of your forward fold as, never take your forward fold for granted. And you'll find that in the next pose, in the next few poses, everyone does the same thing. They take these movements for granted because you've done them over and over again. And you can really pick up bad and really poor movement patterns. So think consciously about what you're doing and think consciously about the sensation in your body. You don't want to feel like your body is resisting what you are trying to do. The second pose is your high cobra or upward facing dog. I don't think upward facing dog is that accessible to the general population. I think a hybrid approach, somewhere between cobra and upward dog, is the best approach. So if you can do upward dog, happily give it a go. Again, I want you to change your mindset. I want you to think about mastering upward facing dog from a biomechanical perspective rather than doing it in a way that you've been taught for so many years. I'm not saying that's wrong, but education means a fresh approach and accepting that there are different ways to do things. Down. Now, the first thing you want to do is lift the front of your pelvis off the ground. I can't emphasize that enough because friction can cause your pelvis to tip or stay where it is when we want it to go slightly backwards. So lift, tuck, and then lift symmetrically. Now look what happens when I lift. I tip side to side as I come up. That frees up my lower back and my sacroiliac joint. And can you see what I'm doing? I'm just moving. Hand down. Shift, fidget. Look, I'm reaching back with my legs. My body's getting longer. Feeling symmetrical, I'm going to lift again, shifting side to side. Do my knees stay down? Absolutely, because if I lift the knees off, I turn it into an arm balance. Look at my posture here, look at my posture there. So let the knees drop, and if they touch the ground, they touch the ground. And ease off. On your third repetition, I want you to think more about your fingertips rather than the heel of your hands. So most people push the heel of their hands into the ground. I want you to push all 5 fingertips into the ground, just there. Shift, lift your left knee off, lift your right knee off, shift, and then look at my shoulders. Roll the shoulders back as long as there's no discomfort in your lower back. Is your breastbone going forward as opposed to this? Can you push your breastbone forward without irritating your lower back? Go back to your hands. I bet you feel it in your wrist now. You can look at your hands and you can see the discoloration in your hands. Your wrist goes all white, suggesting lack of blood flow because you're really overusing your wrist and it just doesn't feel nice. Use your fingertips. Feel the fingertips. There. And ease off. Most people do upward facing dog because it's something they do before downward facing dog rather than treating it as a standalone pose. Practice that pose, master it, do it slowly by itself. Don't do anything before or after. Do it as a standalone pose. Feel what's happening, and I want you to focus on the stretch, on the abdominals, your chest and shoulders. Okay, so your abdominals, chest and shoulders. And as far as contracting or working, I want you to feel your glutes gently working to keep your pelvis in the right place. And then push your hands into the ground to feel that in your tricep, your upper arm muscles. And before you comment, make sure you repeated that for a minimum of 50 repetitions, holding each repetition for an absolute minimum of 60 seconds. The third movement is one of the single most neglected movements in all of human movement, and that is your lateral flexion or lateral bending. So we've done flexion with the forward bend, we've done extension with upward facing dog, and now we have lateral flexion, which is your gate pose. And I want you to really focus on this part rather than the hip. So most people push the hip out. I want you to feel your hip in place. So gently squeeze your left glute there, or the glute of the bent knee. Raise your arm up and bend. Breathe in, bring oxygen in, and breathe out. There we go. And don't hold, because you're going to stress there, see? Because what haven't I done? I haven't eased off to allow oxygen back in. I haven't made my brain happy. And as I breathe out, I go again. I can go further. And now I'm starting to stress a little bit, so I ease off. You see, I'll just walk my fingers up my leg. Oxygen, and I'll go again. And if you want to feel your psoas, which if you recall is a huge muscle in your hip that helps carry your legs when you walk. It's just a monster of a muscle. It can stay restricted from sitting down and walking all day. It attaches to the inside of your upper leg bone all the way to, it crosses your pelvis and attaches to your lower back. So just there, it can feel horrible. If you want to get into that as well, as you side bend, turn your breastbone to face up. Oh, there, I feel it. I feel the stretch. Breastbone up, oh, and ease off. So that was an example of me going a little bit too far. I needed to, but you need to go too far to get it wrong, to find that perfect middle ground. So that's your lateral flexion. For me, the single most important movement for the modern Homo sapien, because when this muscle, the QL, the quadratus lumborum, when this muscle tightens up or isn't happy, it can compress the lower back. So many people complain of lower back like heaviness or ache. And 9 times out of 10, I get them to do a gate pose stretch to release their QL. And it always works. Well, 9 times out of 10, it works. You know, sometimes it's more of a medical condition. So it's such an important muscle to stretch, and it's an amazing pose. Repeat it, refine it, master it, and you are another step closer to really kind of honing in and mastering those fundamentals. Pose number 4 is a twist, and it might be the easiest pose you're going to do because you're going to learn how to twist outside of a yoga pose. Bear with me. So what I mean is I just want you to sit down comfortably, and I want you to feel like you're sat up, not forcefully. You don't want to overdo things. You don't want to be this guy. Just lift your chest gracefully so you're aware that you need to resist gravity. And then with that conscious awareness, I want you to feel your ribs, your oblique muscles attached to your ribs. They're the rotation muscles. Rotate to your left just a little, and then see if there's a little more available in your chest to turn and ease off. Now, lengthen again. So I want to feel tall. I'm not lifting my breastbone. I want to feel tall. I want to feel like there's no space in the muscles. There's more space in the bones in my lower back. Let me say that again. This video's been going on for too long, so I've been chatting away for too long. I want you to feel like you're creating more space for the bones in your lower back. So turn, turn, turn to the left and ease off. Raise your arms up. Now, what most people do is they initiate rotations with their arms, but all you're doing is stretching your pectorals by doing that. I want you to focus on your obliques. They're attached to your ribs. So rotate using your ribs and your thoracic spine. So the thoracic spine is identified by being the ones where your ribs are attached to them, 12 of them. Rotate, 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 and come back. Again, rotate, feel the movement happening there, happening there. Trust me, if your hips are locked as they are here in this seated position, you can't go as far as you think, and that is absolutely fine. This will help you understand that when you do regular yoga poses, you are creating too much rotation from other areas. Focus on your spine, focus on your thoracic spine. It lengthens and you turn, and everything else just follows. My neck muscles, so the neck bones, they just turn. They follow the thoracic rather than leading. They follow. And if I have that capacity, I might just turn a little bit more. Feel that in my sternocleidomastoid muscle, my big neck muscle. You can see that from there. And come back. One note, Do you know what your spine hates? It hates twisting whilst you're slumped. If you ask me to demonstrate to you how you can bulge a disc, I would compress a disc and I would turn it. That's how you bulge a disc, and that's what we do in yoga. We tend to slump or not be very aware, especially if we're tired, and then we turn. It's a long-term recipe for disaster. You don't have to overdo things. Just sit up and use your obliques to turn, and keep repeating that hundreds of times on each side until you really get it, and then take that into your revolved triangle and other poses and see how it feels. The last two movements are arm balances. They are your crow pose and your handstand. Now, I'm not going to bore you and go over them again. I've made videos for those, which I will link about now. Hopefully they'll also be linked at the end of the video, where I go through the basics of how you can master your arm balance and then how you can do handstand in 7 days. You won't master handstand in 7 days, but you will feel really comfortable with what you're doing in over a 7-day period. And those are the six fundamental movements that I want you to master, so you can get a real grip and you can get a hold of your physical yoga practice. If you were to repeat these over and over and over again, just these for now, you would find such a tremendous transferable value in what I'm sharing with you, meaning that you'll find that you can quickly use these movements in your vinyasas, in your flows, and you can make them so much more effective, because chances are, until you've mastered the basics, each time you flow and move from one pose to another, your brain seeks the path of least resistance. So it does as little as it can to help you survive that movement. But we don't want that, but that's just survival mode. We want to really hone in on what we're doing to make this yoga. We need to think about what we're doing, and we need to really refine the movement so the conscious becomes unconscious. And remember, this is not me saying there is anything wrong with flowing. Absolutely not. You know, flow is an amazing movement, an amazing practice. However, when you haven't mastered the basics, your flow can feel unnecessarily complicated. Now, let me know how you get on, and hopefully I'll see you back at the studio after a period of time where you've been doing these over and over again, and you can share with me how amazing your yoga practice has got.